Hey, were you about to have a coronary heart
Uh,
attack?
Pretty
Um,
much, yeah.
we were just talking about. We are live, by the way. Um,
Yes.
we were just talking about getting ready for the call, and I'm yelling in the background. There's no tilde because when you toggle on my keyboard, I can get rid of things so we couldn't go live. Anyway, it was funny, but that's not what we're talking about today. We are talking about reporting, dun, 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 because it's a big deal. And it's a bigger and bigger deal, even though marketing can be a black box, especially the results you get and where you get them from, sometimes even when you track. So today we are talking, Phelan and I, about reporting, and we thought we'd talk about this in kind of a story format where we're going to talk about a couple different clients. Phelan, who would you like to start with?
So we could start with talking about we have a client that is a school that does a lot of lead work, and then so the interesting part with them is that the numbers that they always focus on are slightly different than the numbers that we focus on. Uh,
Ooh, tell
so
me more.
so they are very focused on a weekly basis of what's the cost per lead. So how many dollars in advertising do they spend to get a lead?
Hmm.
Um, and so I think that is a good metric. It's one that I've come around to because it's one that really shows value. That if you can make $10 in Google Ads or Facebook ads go to get a lead, that's even better than spending 30, right? So it's a pretty tangible metric that, of course, it doesn't bring into like what's the quality, right? So those more intangible ones where you gotta, but it still is a good metric to kind of use on a monthly basis.
If you have the right audience, though, I mean, it is a good metric, right? Because then
Hmm.
you can, I mean, there's that quality that you look at down the line after you get the. It's our job to bring you the lead and hopefully qualified lead. But if we bring you leads and they're not qualified, means we're going to change our tactics, right?
Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and change our audiences, or if we can, choose audiences or areas, and I think that's pretty interesting. Now, why? So you've come around to cost per lead versus or cost per conversion, which lead?
Yeah. Yes, I did come around to it. It was definitely one that I didn't really think was as valuable, but when we first got it started, but it is definitely one that I've come around to kind of thinking as being a pretty good metric, especially that as we just got off a call with like an e-commerce, a fairly big e-commerce client, and that I had to explain like the attribution that was going on between what Google Ads was saying and what Google Analytics and Shopify Analytics and or Facebook Ads. All four of those platforms were saying very different numbers, and
Mm,
so we had to kind of keep that in mind and kind of you kind of have to divine a little bit and like figure out like okay these like why are these numbers saying this over here when they're saying something
yeah.
different over here, and it's definitely one where it's become so like cost per conversion is still pretty good because it is I got a conversion, I know that much, how much did I spend to get that conversion.
Yeah, yeah,
um and
yeah.
so it's a really good one that even in an age where your attribution modeling isn't as good as it is, uh, or it could be, that it's one that it's a hard and fast truth. I spent X amount of dollars, I got X amount of sales out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And Google Ads has, like, I mean, we've seen it. It does really work well for some businesses. Um, Sometimes things work great out of the gate, sometimes they don't, right? But
Yeah.
the tracking is I think gonna become more and more important because even though that it's a little bit of a black box sometimes, right? With and the reason we say that is Google's changing attribution models from what Phelan said, like, you have all these different channels where you can measure things, but where's the source of truth? Well, for e-commerce businesses, the source of truth is in the sales, right? So
Yeah.
the Shopify is where we're going to look at the most important things, I think,
Yeah.
besides the
Shop
cost per conversion.
Yeah, Shopify's analytics is the like that's your beating heart of truth, right? Because they go and actually reach out to the payment provider and say process this payment, so they know exactly how much payments went through. So they're the source of truth for that part. So it's definitely, you do want to take someone like that where you know that they're actually measuring that kind of like how many sales, like hard and fast, no matter where it came from. And so that's an important one for you to be able to have that kind of, I know for sure I got this many sales. You might have like your attribution after that get a little wonky.
Mhm.
Um,
I didn't do any
and yeah, I saw that.
there.
Uh,
Sorry, I had to lock it. Um,
uh, and the other one that does come up that I think that I wanted to touch on because you mentioned it was attribution modeling. So
Mhm,
it used to be that we would always do linear because, like, to us, it's, you know, I don't like saying that this one ad did is the reason why you got the lead, because that's not how people work, right? Anyone
mhm.
knows that it takes multiple steps. Like, I just bought a desk and it took probably 4 days for this to happen, and it would
Okay,
probably
and what
count
did you
as,
do in your journey?
well, I mean, I like Googled them, then I clicked on an ad because I was hoping to get a discount code, and then I was having issues with the credit card for something else that wasn't related to that. And so in the end, it took like 4 days for that conversion to happen. And I saw, but like also their retargeting was not very good because I was looking at desks and they're like, maybe you want ergonomic chairs. I'm like, well, should you be advertising to me the thing that I still haven't purchased? Like that
Yeah,
to me
didn't
would have been,
they were using a Performance Max campaign from Google Ads, and
yeah.
you clicked on the ads and you went to the a page selling something that it shouldn't be selling.
Well, or for my journey, that what they should have been retargeting was, hey, come back and finish your sale. Don't you love our desks? Not, hey, we know that you bought a desk, or wouldn't you like a chair to go with it?
Oh, when
It's
you
like,
didn't. Ah, interesting. So it
yeah,
sounds like there needs to be some more specialization in there with what they're doing. Maybe yeah. There's a lot of change inside Google Ads. And for SEO, I mean, if you're a marketer, you're feeling it, you're seeing it. Like I think some people have been really nervous that they could lose their jobs because of ChatGPT. When the reality is, if you learn to use the new systems out there and build them together, you're probably going to do quite well, right? If you can manage marketing for a company, you're probably going to do very well, I think, right? That's what we're starting to see anyway. So,
yeah.
um,
Uh,
yeah.
I would say that, yeah, it's definitely, there's been a lot of changes and a lot of the reporting. It's definitely been one where we've had some as well. There's always some like disconnects as well, especially if you're trying to do attribution for SEO, where it's just sort of like, oh, the numbers went up overall, and then they're like, can you? It's like, well, you did get a bunch more leads from Google Organic, and we think that it's what we did. Like, there's a bit of like,
I want to take credit. I totally do. And like clients don't want to give credit for sure at times, right? Like everybody's like, I mean, I don't get me wrong. I don't want to take, it's not my story. It's still the client's story. I just would like to, what did you, I would like to be a helper along the journey. And
yeah, be acknowledged for our role in it. And I think that you wanted to touch on this one as well. That of that is that we had a, you very rarely do you get a real life example of, hey, you really do need us. Was a client had done a chargeback to Google, which don't ever do a chargeback to those like Google or Meta.
so bad.
They
It
do
was
not
so
like,
bad.
they don't take very kindly to you taking their
Yeah.
money.
It took us
Um,
3 months to get their account back up and running for them. And man, did we fight. We fought tooth and nail to get them back up and running, right? Because we're in your corner when
yeah,
you're our client. And we got them back, and but all their sales, well, or a lot. Was it all? Sales
it,
leads dried up.
yeah, it was basically counted as just it flatlined without
Yeah.
the advertising
On
that
Google.
uh, on Google. Well, but overall, right, they were saying from
Yeah.
their CRM that it was basically like the drop was noticeable on
Hmm.
their back end. So that should tell you that, a lot of this stuff, like, you very rarely do get a natural experiment of have ads running, don't have ads running. What's the
What happened?
difference?
Yeah. And very unique, right? I mean, ads kind of are supposed the idea behind doing ads are they're supposed to boost what's already good, right? If you're working with crap, then you're probably not going to get what you need. And like it's tinkering, right? I think a lot of business owners don't realize, like, websites morph and change over time. Like, nothing's perfect. And out of the gate, it's best if you learn to fix a little bit or do a little bit or understand a little bit so you don't get really frustrated. Because I think it's really frustrating when you can't do something yourself, and especially if you're an entrepreneur or business owner, you just want to get in there and fix it. And if you're depending on people to fix it, it all just makes it harder. So it's good to
Yeah.
know that little bit to help yourself or break it further and then need a little more help. But
Yeah, yeah, and I'd say as well, when you're a business owner, just kind of circling back like the topic as well, to be able to set up like your own Looker studio,
mm,
and to be able to like have some basic reporting on the numbers so that you can kind of see, even if it's at a 30,000 foot view, that you can kind of see, oh, I'm getting more sessions from those sessions, I'm getting this many conversions,
what is a
and then
session? Yeah. I think
yeah,
that's what's important. I think the language barrier, with layman's terms, to like specialist terms in marketing, especially when it comes to measuring results, is where clients stumble. I mean, now we're actually requiring our clients to meet with us monthly, so that we can collaborate. Because marketing is a group effort. There's no way around it. Between other marketers and yourself, between business owners and marketers. Like, we were in a meeting today where I was like, I'm turning off this campaign. It's spent a ton of money. Like, and
yeah,
I'm just not seeing the results. And they were like, oh no, we've had more corporate orders this year than we've ever had. So while I'm turning down at like the busiest time of year, like
yeah.
turning down something that I think is overspending and wasting their money, they're on the other side going, wow, this is really great. We're getting a lot of corporate orders. So if you don't meet monthly with your clients, you don't get that information, right? And I think that collaborative effect is what is making us successful right now.
Yeah, and so that's also one of the other big numbers that's always kind of a hard one. It took me a long time to kind of get my head around, which was ROAS, like return on ad spend. So you
So
spend,
yeah,
so
what
you
is
spend,
ROAS? Because it's hard to figure out.
well, there is actually a metric in Google that is ROAS. They just don't call it that. They actually call it what the two things that you divide, much like how a click-through rate is number of sessions divided by
Nope.
the
Number of impressions.
clicks. No,
Impressions.
no, no, the denominator, the top number is the clicks. The
Yeah,
bottom number is the impressions.
yeah, but you said sessions.
Yeah, I meant
Well, you
clicks.
can't say sessions because sessions is part of Google Analytics.
Yeah,
Anyway, so because language
yeah,
does matter to be concise about this so that people don't get confused.
yeah.
So session.
So
So
what
what
the
is click through rate?
well, click-through rate is clicks divided by impressions.
Okay, and why is that important?
Because it's a ratio to see how engaged people are with with your SEO or your ads, whether it's engaging with people, right? Because you want to basically 2% of people to click it is kind of like a healthy rate to do. And so a ROAS is a similar number where it is how much how much value, so conversion value is what they say in Google Ads divided by the cost. So how much money did you make from selling the product divided by how much you spent in ads?
Yeah,
And
but
you want that number to be over one.
yeah,
Basically it's anything over one is good.
right.
Uh,
It's hard to figure out ROAS with something like that isn't e-commerce,
yeah.
right?
It, especially if it's like something as like dynamic as like a corporate gift. So you don't know if they're going to order 10 of them, 5 of them, 2,000 of them.
Yeah.
So you can't really judge it over like super easily at the time. It's not like you could do lead based where it's like I sell $100 session and
Mm.
you book one session, and so I know that getting one sale is going to equal $100. Um, that would be an easy one. Where it's like if it's dynamic and it moves a lot, then it's going to be much more difficult for you to be able to track easily.
I
Uh,
remember when I had a conversation with somebody, and this relates to these numbers. I had a conversation with somebody who wanted to do Google Ads, and their service was like $7.95 to $12. And they thought they could just turn on this faucet of Google Ads and they just make a ton of money. And when we broke down how much they, because you can break down like how much is a cost per click, how many
Yeah.
clicks do you need? Like ideally what you want is 10 clicks per lead, right?
Yeah.
And like that's what you're working towards. And so if she needed 10 clicks for one lead to get her somebody to buy a $12 item, it would cost her more to do Google Ads than she would make off the item. So it just wasn't going to work that way. And that's when you have to decide that maybe Google Ads isn't right for you because of the cost of your product, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, or you might have like an upper limit in the number of hours you can submit to it, commit to it. So it's like not even worth
Yeah.
you getting all this influx of new leads if you can't even service them, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's like also, you have to kind of understand your own situation. But yeah, definitely the unit economics. That's what you're describing of like, like the advertising and everything that goes into actually selling this product. If it's worth less than what you would take in ads to
Mm-hmm.
spend, then yeah, there's no real point in doing that. And
Yeah.
so it's definitely one we gotta pay attention to when we're talking to when we're doing advertising and talking to potential clients or starting new campaigns.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting. I think the reports we do just are I've started to say now, not always, but I've started to say now and seem to be saying it more and more is the report is a jumping off point, right?
Hmm.
Because we're marketers, sometimes we might want to give you too much information because we think it's all fascinating. But clients sometimes do not want that. So we'll have a one pager report go out and we just make sure it's got a meeting link in it where they can book a meeting with us. I think that's really been helpful to us actually with our
Yeah, yeah, closing the loop and talking to clients like that, I think is super important to make sure that like, yeah, it's, we say that, you can look at the dashboards, but if it's something's broken or, we have a client that gets a lot of phone calls with people in speaking Spanish. And, that's like and so we could say, hey,
I've
you're getting a
learned
lot of phone.
I've learned how to say job in Spanish, tardes.
Yeah.
And I yesterday I learned grad. Um, Google Ads is teaching me Spanish.
Ah,
Um, right? Recent grad, I think it was de something, de la something. Anyway, so reporting it's fascinating, and I think you know it's the jumping off point to diving into analytics, right? That's where
yeah.
you're going to go. Analytics, I always go to Search Console because I don't know, I find it friendlier maybe, but Google Analytics has really changed their look and feel in the last little while. So if you are researching, learning Google Analytics, you're probably going to want to change your search parameters to last couple months, last month, and then you'll
Yeah.
see the correct dashboard that you'll be looking at when you're learning. So I think that's important.
Yeah, as well as the Google Analytics 4 has always had from the get-go a really powerful like reporting engine, but it's also like complete analysis paralysis where they give you like every metric you could possibly want, and you're like, hey, you want to build a report with these? And I'm like, I don't even know where to start with this stuff.
Right. Well, and
Uh,
there's lots of changes going on with lots of buttons and levers of the different products you're probably using right now, right? So I think they're all updating constantly now.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Another one that just kind of it popped in my head when we were talking about the client who got phone calls, that they get a lot of phone calls in general. And then I was talking to another one of our clients who's a e-commerce store, and I was saying, oh, you've had like 120 conversions in the last month that are all
Hmm.
phone calls. And she's like, oh, I didn't notice any big uptick in the number of phone calls. And then, well, I said, how many phone calls do you usually get in a day? Well, it turns out like if you average 4 phone calls a day, well, that's on average what you would be getting. It's just these
Hmm.
happen to be coming from the ads now.
Yeah.
And so also keeping in mind what's a metric that shows ROI to one client
Mhm.
is not always the same as another.
That's really
And
important to mention, right? Like figuring
yeah,
that out, like getting those KPI. I love. I mean, I love figuring out, in the end, like for instance, today we had a meeting with a client, e-commerce client, super busy. busiest time of year. Most people in their busiest time of year do not want to talk to us. And we've actually made a mistake of assuming that, oh, they probably don't want to talk to us. It's because it's their busy season, where we might have been mistaken, and then the client felt like they didn't get the attention they needed. There is a lot of uh, team building that you can do with your clients and be their marketing person, right? Because it depends. If you want to be the leader of the marketing initiative, then you're going to take on more of these roles. If you don't, then you're not. Like, we work well in teams. I think that's like, because we know our specialty, and we'll defer, right? I will defer because I can't do some stuff Phelan can do. He defers to
Yeah.
me. We defer to like Greg or Rena or anyone else we know. Um, Everybody's smart in their own way and got their own skills. You like that? I have a meeting where I'm recording the video and I just come up at the start of the meeting and it makes me giggle. But we're talking about reporting, not meetings. I guess
Yeah.
meetings are kind of like reporting, right?
Yeah, because also the reporting, the other important part of it is like, what are we going to do next? Like, what's the next thing that, and usually the reporting will tell you,
This,
hey, your conversion rate, uh, your conversion rate's not really good. Like we talked to that e-commerce client. Well, now they went from a 1% conversion rate to a 2% conversion rate. So, that's a huge, we're getting more bang for our buck because we're working with the website person who's then fixing pages and making sure that, like, when people go to their website, they actually complete the purchase. And so we can drive more sales for them out of the same ad budget that we already are using. So and so those are things where you can kind of see the reporting and the in the reporting, like, of the whole funnel that's going on, that, like, where's the drop off, where's the next area we got to work on, and so that really helps you with that if you're tracking every stage of that journey.
it's true. Hey, Greg said he got a shout out. Yeah, you did, Greg. Look, I even got it up on the page without much hassle there. We're working on that. I'm hopefully going to get your cute little face in there too. You got a couple shout outs today, Greg. If anyone else joins us on the replay or is joining us from another channel, pipe up, say hi. Do you track, Greg? Do you do reporting for clients monthly? No, you're more of a web dev, so I'm not sure, but I know some of your sites probably have. When you sign into your website and it gives you stats, I think you can put Google Stats in there. Um, but we don't really do that, do we? I always look at all that stuff as like the jumping off point. That's just
Yeah.
gonna drag you right over into a different asset that you should be looking into in Google Analytics or Search Console, which, yeah. We have some news that we have to get into, Phelan, that I think we should tell
What's that?
people about. So, well, about next year. This is our last video, I think, for the holidays. So
Yeah,
we
before,
won't be
yeah.
back until the after the third.
Fifth.
So I think our next live is on the 5th.
Fifth, I think.
It's on the 4th.
Yeah, okay.
So we will be back next year, but we're going to be doing some different fun things. We're going to be doing a lot more teaching. Oh, Greg says he doesn't like adding analytics into WordPress. And interesting. Why is that, my friend? So Greg's saying he doesn't add the analytics in. I thought he did. Um, oh, new look. Interesting, right? So there's so many different ways to do things, which is one of the reasons we're changing things. So what we're going to be doing is teaching more, talking more, having more fun, and being a little bit well, in more places. We're going to do some live stream trainings. We're going to do one a month. And we will include the people in the Facebook group, because if you want to learn with us, we figure we'll just teach you what we know, in case you might want to do it yourself. And I think that's the best way to learn. Right, Phelan? So,
Yeah.
yeah, we're going to do one teaching a month, I think. So we'll be live streaming it monthly. We're just coming up with the dates, and we are going to teach literally everything we know. And I think it's gonna be awesome. No, it's gonna be really fun. So we're just deciding on if we're gonna do Google Analytics 4 first, or if we're gonna do Google Business Profile first. So let us know what you would like to learn first or dive into. It is going to be a half an hour to 45-minute training, and we are going to be in platform. So it is something to totally get hyped about. If you're interested in tracking, if you're interested in SEO or Google Ads, and we'll maybe even convince Greg to do one, or Rena to do a social one, or somebody else to get on here and teach something. Right, right. Get hyped. And we have 4 more minutes. Phelan, do we want to tell one more brilliant story about loving clients? Yeah, no,
Yeah.
we're out of here. No.
Uh, well, the other one that comes to mind that I was thinking of, like weird times and you kind of the initial top line numbers don't look really good, and then you dive in, was that e-commerce client that we were talking about earlier. They have an in-store, and
Mm,
in the middle of the summer, their conversion rate dropped from 1% down to 0.02%, and
oh,
I had a panic attack. And then I had realized that there was their in-store visit campaign had something like 2 to 4 million impressions
mm,
in a month. But those impressions were getting stacked against the number of clicks and against the number of conversions. And so, yeah, if your denominator has 2 million and everything else has like 100, then yes, it looks like you're going to be doing really poorly. So it's definitely use that as to dive in deeper, figure out what's going on, and be able to show the client that, like, um, hey, you're getting all this traffic here, and their online store was still doing really well, and it was just that this one in-store campaign was just doing so well during the summer that they were, just looked like everything else was doing terribly.
mm.
So
And it went so it would have looked on a graph like it went straight, like hockey stick, hockey stick style growth, and
yeah,
then but that so and that would tank the ratios, right?
yeah,
Um,
it totally threw off all the other numbers because that one number was so much bigger than everything else that it, looked
right.
like decimal points of, instead of like 2%, it was like 0.002.
Another reason why you should meet clients monthly, because you want to be able to explain that or see that,
Yeah.
or so I think that's one of the big takeaways from reporting. I think uh every business is different. Every business needs to fix different things at different times, even if they are similar. And if you cookie cutter a marketing strategy to people, I don't think it works well. I think you need
No.
to dive into what's working for them. What are they actually doing? What do they need help with? And how can you be effective in utilizing that information? And so, yeah, so I guess our big takeaway from our reporting discussion is reporting can happen in meetings, um, and reports are jumping off points for digging into the data.
Yeah, and they also save your job in a lot of ways, right? Because
Mhm.
if you can report on, hey, I did not just like you spent X, you got this, but like kind of being able to tell them, hey, here's what we found, here's what we think you're going next,
Mhm.
or what are you guys hearing? And so this gives you a way to kind of center your discussion with your clients, about, or your boss, on how things are going with the marketing and where you can make improvements, where you've had successes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean that's our takeaway. Do you meet your clients monthly? Uh, in my
Yes.
meetings, I now duplicate the meeting and make sure it's I think initially a couple of years back I was a little bit afraid to have meetings with clients, or I like not meeting with clients, but I like it's funny how my tune has changed. To because I think to be really effective, it's good to grow a relationship because marketing's a group effort. That's what we've learned. Greg, you're right. We got to say that more. Um, yes, see everybody next year. We're out for the year.
Oh, the
Um,
other part. Remember to suggest a topic in, if you have one. So
woohoo.
that's definitely Greg. And yes, definitely, if you have any suggestions, we've got lots of, anywhere. Just tag Pip or
any of
I
it, or
with the
Greg or
suggestion.
Rena.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And we will see you on the 4th of August. Yay!
of
Happy
January, of
holidays!
January.
January, August. Oh, right.
Yeah,
I was
so we're
planning
not.
on taking a lot of time off. Oh,
Yeah, not that much time off.
right,
Jeez.
right. I'll see you on the 4th of January.
Okay, bye for now.
All right, bye.